Well, good afternoon and welcome to episode 15 of Thursday Thoughts. And as you may also know, this is also the final episode for at least this run of Thursday Thoughts. Just want to say thank you so much. If you've been tuning into these videos, I've had a bunch of fun kind of digging into these questions and offering my responses. I do hope that they've been helpful to you as well. But we have still got one last question that we're going to talk about and respond to this afternoon before we finish this series, and that is the question around church. Why should we bother with church? Why should we even consider joining and being a part of a church? And I think this is actually a really important final question to deal with in this series, because it may be that some of us, yes, are convinced by the truth of Christianity. We might be captivated by the person of Jesus, maybe even have given ourselves to follow him, or at least our steps along that journey. But even though we might come to that point where we might even call ourselves Christians, still I think many of us will be skeptical about actually, taking the step to join a church. We might see that as a bit excessive, maybe a bit unnecessary. Now we think, why, if I'm following Jesus and if I'm living for him on my own, why do I have to involve others in my faith? Why can't my religion just be a private thing? Why do I have to join this club of other people who believe the same thing as me? And I guess I can kind of understand that objection, because like many of us over this lockdown, I've taken up a few hobbies that I didn't have before. One of them you can see the fruits of right here, and this is my basil plant. I'm quite proud of how well it's doing, although there are some flowers emerging on the plant here. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe let me know in the comments if you are more wise about herbs than me. But whilst I've picked up this hobby and have really enjoyed growing herbs, it would be a bit strange, wouldn't it, if this afternoon someone were to knock on my door and say, are you coming to Herb Club? We've heard that you've picked up this new hobby. We've heard you've become a herb grower, so now you've got to come and join the club. It's every Thursday afternoon. Are you going to come? I might find that a bit strange. Because yes, whilst it might be helpful for me to join a community of herb growers to maybe get a bit more wisdom and guidance on how to grow these herbs and whether those flowers are good or not, at the end of the day, I can grow herbs pretty fine on my own. It's not like it's a community sport. It's not like I need all these other people surrounding me as I tend my herbs. And I guess that's a bit of a similarity to how we think about church sometimes. We see it as, going to church, it's an optional extra if you're a Christian. There's people there that give you a bit more guidance and help and teaching if you want to dig a bit further. But ultimately, religion is just about you and God. It's just about you following Jesus. And so church is there if you want it, but it's not really necessary. Me and my herbs, it's not necessary for me to go to a herb growing club. And we think the same thing is true of Christianity, surely. But actually, I think there's a few reasons why that isn't the case. Actually, I think when we consider the nature of Christianity, the nature of what it is we are doing when we're following Jesus, we actually see that there are some seriously good reasons why we should bother with church, why we should bother giving it our time, giving it our even membership as we join a church. And the first reason I think that church is crucial for us if we want to follow Jesus or explore following him is because of the radical nature of the Christian message. The radical nature of the belief of Christianity means it is crucial to be part of a community that believe that too. You see, Christians believe something pretty extraordinary, don't they? We believe that there was a man called Jesus, who 2,000 years ago came to earth from heaven and was God incarnate, God in human form. And not only that, but that he predicted his own resurrection and died, and then 3 days later rose from the dead, proving himself to be the Son of God, proving himself to have died for the forgiveness of our sins, and proving himself to be Lord of the world, who is now ascended in heaven and one day coming back to earth to restore all things. And that's what Christians believe about the Jesus of history, that he was God himself, that he defeated death and is coming to renew everything. Now, as we have seen throughout this series of videos, I think this is a credible belief. I think there are good reasons and good evidence within the Bible and outside for believing that Jesus really did rise from the dead, for believing that he was who he said he was. But though there is evidence behind this belief, that's not to say it's something easy to believe nonetheless. That's not to say that it's not still a staggering belief, something that we have to kind of work to take to heart. Yes, there is evidence behind Christianity, but it's still a big claim. And I think this is the first reason why community, why church is so important for the Christian. Because whilst, yes, we might be convinced that Jesus has risen from the dead, convinced that he is God, convinced that we want to give our lives to follow him, the fact that this claim is so huge means that if we don't tend this belief well, it will lose its power. If we do not surround ourselves with kind of affirmations of this truth, it will be easy for us to doubt, to start considering that it might not be true, because like it or not, as humans, we are very influenced by the things around us. Our beliefs are not just, no man is an island, but the things we believe, the things we hold to be true will be influenced by those around us. I guess this is a reason why, many people throughout history who have had revolutionary ideas, who've maybe seen something in society that needs to change and have sought changing it, one of the things they've often done is gather together, gather into communities, organizations, forums. And they don't do this to kind of isolate themselves away from other people or to brainwash themselves. No, each one of them has come to their conviction of this truth individually, but nonetheless they come together to kind of support one another in this truth, because they know that if they're scattered and are individuals, that truth that they have seen will become deadened. Their revolutionary further to change this thing that they've seen will become deadened unless they are in community that supports one another in that spurs each other on in that. And I guess that's kind of what a church is like. A church is not there to brainwash people into thinking something they don't really believe, but a church is there to encourage people and support something that they have believed but need supporting. Yes, we might come to the conclusion that Jesus is Lord, he is King, he's risen from the dead, but if we don't surround ourselves with people who are also following him too, it will be easy for that truth to lose its power, lose its fervency. In some senses, the church is a little bit like one of those revolutionary organizations of history. The church is a group of people who have seen something revolutionary. They've seen this man who's risen from the dead. They've seen this man who is coming back to earth to restore all things, who has a solution to our world's mess. And so we gather together each week to remind ourselves of this, to keep hope alive, to keep this truth inside of us alive as we wait for him to come again. So that's the first reason I think that the church is indispensable for us if we would call ourselves Christians or are looking into Christianity, because the radical nature of the Christian message means that we need people around us who have seen this truth too and can spur us on with it. So that's the first reason I think that church is crucial for us. The second reason I think that church is crucial if we're calling ourselves Christians or are looking into Christianity. It is because of what happens to you when you become a Christian. You know, when you start to follow Jesus, one of the things that the Bible says is that you join his family. You become a child of God. God becomes your father. And not only that, Jesus, as the Son of God, becomes like your elder brother. You join the family of God. But not only that, not only does God become part of your family, but it also follows on that everyone else who knows Jesus becomes part of your family too. You know, make no mistake, when you become a Christian, you become a brother or sister of millions of people around the world who follow Jesus too. And, you know, this is a wonderful thing. You know, of course, with any family, there are going to be tensions in the church. The church is a family of people who all have their own brokenness, all have their own mess. The church isn't made up of perfect people. No, Christians are people who, by definition, have seen their need for God and have come to him for forgiveness. And so, of course, the church is, like any family, going to have some tension. It's going to have some conflict. There's going to be some difference of opinion. It would be weird if everyone always said the same thing and everyone was exactly the same. Church is not a brainwashed community. It's a community of different people following the same Lord. And so, of course, there will be some clashes, some tensions. But whilst it is true that in a family there will be some conflict, it's also even more true that families are the kind of center of where we find love and acceptance and support and wisdom. When you become part of Jesus's family, you become part of family with millions of other people around the world. And if you are wanting to grow as a Christian, grow as one of God's children, it is crucial for you to be part of that family. Truth is, you will not grow into the person you are meant to be unless you are part of a family of God's people. Again, going back to this basil plant I've got here, if I just were to take one of these leaves off the branch, you can be assured that this leaf in my hand right now will wither within a few hours' time. It is not an individual leaf. It does not have life in and of itself. No, its life comes to it by being part of the plant. And the same is true for us as part of the family of God. You know, if we are not part of a church, if we are not receiving wisdom from older people, if we're not receiving support and kindness and love, the truth is we will wither. We will not do well. We will not flourish in who we're meant to be, who Jesus has called us to be, but we will struggle. And this, I think, is the second reason why church is so crucial to us if we are calling ourselves Christians or even looking into it, because the toughness of the Christian life means that it is so necessary to have a family around you. Like it or not, you become a Christian, you become part of a family. And to ignore that, to just try and do Christianity on your own, is to ignore who you were made to be, to ignore that you are just one part of a wider family from whom you receive your life and sustenance as God dwells in us. So that's, I think, the second reason why we need the church, why we should bother with church, is because Jesus saves us into a family and we need that family to flourish. But the third reason that I think it is crucial for us, if we're following Jesus, to be part of a church, to love the church, to serve the church, is because the Bible tells us that Jesus himself loves the church. Jesus' passion, it is nothing less than the church. In Ephesians 5, verse 21, tells us that Jesus loved the church and gave himself up for her. He gave his life for the church. If you want to know the biggest thing that is on Jesus' heart, the thing that Jesus doesn't stop thinking about day and night, his ultimate passion is the church. That is what his whole plan is. Jesus' whole plan in coming to earth, dying and rising from the dead, was so that he could redeem a people who would be his church. There would be a diverse collection of people, united not because they're all part of the same ethnicity or all part of the same language or cultural or social group, but united because of him. That is Jesus' goal, to have a people from every tribe and tongue who are united because they love and serve him. Jesus' goal, Jesus' passion is the church. And so if we become Christians, say to Jesus, "You're Lord of my life," and yet reject the church, say, "I don't want to be part of that group of people," you're not just harming yourself. You're not just doing yourself damage like this basil leaf that's been plucked off from the rest of the plant, but you're also doing Jesus' mission damage. You're doing him harm. His mission is to have a church of people united who can witness to the world around him because they are diverse people yet united in him. And so if we call ourselves Christians, if we have given our lives to Jesus and want to follow him and use our lives to serve him, that will mean joining a church. It'll mean being part of a church, being part of the people that he has loved and given himself for and died for. That, I think, is the ultimate reason why we should bother with church. It's because Jesus bothered with church. It's because he really cares about the church. And so my encouragement to you as we finish this series of Thursday Thoughts is to continue exploring in a church community. I mean, it might be that during this time period you have found yourself come to the point where you're ready to give yourself to Jesus, give yourself to relationship with him. Well, if that's you, surely the best thing for you to do is to join a church where you can grow, you can flourish, you can receive support and wisdom. But even if not, even if you're kind of just still exploring things around Christianity, I'd still say that actually the best place to do this is in a community. To join a community of people who are able to explore these questions with you. I mean, yes, these videos have been fun to make and I hope my responses have been helpful, but ultimately the best way to look into these things is through discussion, through talking it through with other people. And that again is what the church is for. It's for those who have come to know Jesus themselves, but also for those who are looking into him, exploring him. And so I want to encourage you, why not look into joining a church community now? I mean, surely there's never been an easier time. There's never been an easier time to kind of drop in anonymously on a church. And there's also never been an easier time to find a church. Just go on Facebook on a Sunday morning. They're all over the place. If you would want to, become part of ALC or just look into what church is like with us, you would be more than welcome to do that. You could join us on Sundays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. either on Facebook or YouTube, where we live stream our meeting. But whether it's with ALC or with any other church, that would be my final encouragement to you, is find a way, find a group of Christians, find a church to explore these things with. Because here's the thing, if Jesus really is God, if he really has risen from the dead, then it's worth looking into these things. And a church is in many ways the best place to do that. So I do hope that my response to this question has been helpful to you. I'm kind of sad that I won't be making more videos as we go on through the summer, but I'm hoping there's a good enough, back catalogue and other things on the internet to help you explore these things. But just to say, if you did want to get in contact with us as a church, you could either email the leaders of the church on care@ascotlife.church, or you can email me personally. It's just simon@ascotlife.church. would be more than happy to get in contact with you and discuss things further. Or, of course, you can join us on our live streams, or you can find another church or find other ways of exploring these things. But hope that what I've said has been helpful, and thanks so much for listening today.